Hey there, do you struggle because you're trying to write your book, but it's all up here and you have no idea where to start? What does that plan even look like? After this video, I'm going to share with you my strategies so that you're going to know how to start to tackle writing that book. For the easiest and simplest ways to write a book, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button. Every Wednesday, you'll be notified when a new video is uploaded. If you're constantly nudged to write a book, and maybe people say to you, that's incredible, you should write a book, or they love your program, they're like, you should write a book, and you keep hearing that same little you should write a book in the back of your mind, but you're like, I don't even know where to start to write this book. How do I do this? Well, not to worry. After we go through the video, I'm going to have some of my strategies that I use. And just so you know, you're not alone. Like most people I work with, that's your biggest fear. Like, Karen, where do I even start? How do I get all these chapters down? So it doesn't matter where you are, what that jumping off point is. I'm going to help you get there. All right, let's get into planning your book, which is really exciting. And I hope you're excited too. So when you're planning a book, the first thing I want to talk about is the clarity around the book. Like, why is it you want to write this book? Why are you so passionate that you have to get this book down onto paper and we're going to self-publish or whatever it is that we might do? So getting super clear. What do I mean by that? First of all, writing a book is no little undertaking. You have to have something that you're really passionate about that's going to keep you and that why around why you want to write going down the road. So being super clear. When I wrote a book, I wrote it with a colleague of mine. So we were kind of accountable to one another. But at the beginning, we had no idea that we were going to actually write this book. And so when everybody kept telling us, you've got such good stuff, you guys should put this together in a book, we sort of, noodled it around, and we were excited because we wanted to write a book. That was something that we thought was interesting. We did hire a book coach because we just didn't know where to start. Like, where do you go? We weren't sure of what our next steps were. And then we gave ourselves a real aggressive timeline so that we could launch our book at the Toronto National Women's Show. But by having that book coach, she really helped us get clear and start to think about the book itself. How big of a book was it going to be? We wanted something that was going to be maybe 100 pages or less. We wanted that book that it was something where people could share the book. So there were lots of hints and tips in it. Every chapter was a module that we had, and every chapter at the end would have a little bit of a worksheet or an exercise that the reader would do to reinforce the content that they just learned. So as we got walking through and we got clearer, the 100 pages became down to maybe 75, and maybe 7 chapters came down to 5. So again, we didn't get too far down into the weeds and the real specifics, but we were just clear of what purpose the book was going to serve, who our market was, which was primarily women. And we wrote it in 3 genres at the time. A lot of people were downsizing from corporate. We had these new things called entrepreneurs, and nobody really knew what that was, except you were going out on your own and you were creating some sort of business. And then there were the people in transition. So the people that, kind of wanted to leave their corporate job because they hated it. Sign up. But they just hadn't made the commitment. So those are the things we looked at. We looked at, who our audience was going to be. So we wrote it in 3 genres. How big of a book? We didn't want it to be a super huge novel. Most of us were moms with small kids, and, reading a chapter before we were exhausted at the end of the day was probably more of who our target market was. And again, just understanding how how we were going to put the book together and what our purpose was. And did that purpose ignite us? Like if we were excited about the book, that was the main thing, because we needed to have other people who are reading the book feel that excitement and that enthusiasm come through the words on the page. All right, so we talked about clarity. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is your content. And this is where I feel a lot of authors get caught up. Like it feels overwhelming. I'm going to put together this book. Where do I draw content? Like, how am I going to write all of the information that needs to go into the pages and make chapters and et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes we kind of future trip on how big of a task this might be. So when we wrote our book, the book actually were presentations, PowerPoint presentations, because that's how we rolled back then. But we had all these great presentations that had amazing content in them. And we also had our notes and things like that we had done because we delivered these presentations in person. So when we were working with our coach, she's like, get out those presentations. And we started to take the content from the presentations and started outlining them into our book, which made it way easier because it was a lot easier to fill in the missing pieces. And we had 5 modules or 5 PowerPoint presentations that we really were in love with. And so those ended up being the chapters in our book. That's how we did it. Now, I worked with another author and by the name of Tara Kindon. She's on our website. Great gal. She interviewed the most inspiring entrepreneurs all across Canada one year. She drove in her Van Jam and she interviewed all these beautiful women and their inspiring stories. And those became the contents and the pages of her book. So really content is everywhere, but sometimes we get in our head that it's something and it can be so much more than that. So again, content is super important though, because it has to be engaging. Who wants to read a book that's super boring? So I will help you take those main themes throughout your book so that we get reader engagement, because that's really what it's all about, right? You want those readers to be engaged, people to share your book and share your information. So again, second thing that's super important is all about our content. Last thing we're going to talk about today is being consistent. Yes. Think of all the things you are not so consistent with. I'm not consistent with housework because I hate it. But when you love something and you're super passionate about it, it's easy to be consistent. That's why we say you got to love the topic that you're writing on. It has to be like so exciting. It has to light you up inside because it's easy to stay consistent then, right? One of the other things I like to talk about that helps you stay consistent is just having a schedule. So I worked with somebody, or I don't know where I heard it, but somebody was like, you know what? If it's not written, it's not real. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. So whoever said that, kudos to you. It's a great point. And it is true. So you've got all sorts of schedulers. You know, I probably have 5 I flip back and forth when in, but you know, have some place where you schedule all your goals. So whether it's, okay, well, I just want to plan. I want to use these things and start planning my book. Write a goal, put it in your calendar, set a reminder. Like these are all things that are helping you achieve the bigger goal. So staying consistent, keeping your eye on the prize and keeping your eye on your why, like that at the very beginning. Why are you writing this book? You know, sharing your knowledge with the rest of the world. Just having those things, staying consistent. That was my cat and my dog in the background. We'll just leave that in. And the other thing too is give yourself some rewards. Like if you've achieved a goal and you are really happy, like you got that done, you stayed consistent, true to your word, reward yourself. Why not? You're worth it. All right. Was this exciting or what? Now you've got 3 strategies to start planning your book. You want to be super clear at the beginning. You want to have that content, and content is everywhere, and being consistent. Those, I think, are the 3 main keys when planning, writing a book as an entrepreneur. I would love for you to comment below if you've got some great ideas too that you used in the planning stages when you wrote your book. And if you found this information useful and you'd love to share it, I'd super appreciate that. And give this video a like if you thought it was awesome. All right, until next time, keep writing.